My story is similar to many of your stories. I grew up in church world, was exposed to faith at an early age. So I've always kind of had the rhythms of the gospel pulsating in my chest. But anxiety, crippling anxiety, wormed its way into my life around 2010. I remember having experiences of profound anxiety and seasons of depression, but I would just kind of push it away. I would pray it away. You know, sometimes in church world, they say you just need to have more faith. That's a horrible thing to say to someone who's dealing with anxiety and depression, because it's usually a chemical imbalance they have no control over. And I remember going to a conference in South Carolina by myself. And during the conference, I was getting text messages from back home about things that were happening at work, things that weren't going so well, things that were kind of falling apart. And my heart sank. And I started getting anxious and restless. And I started to feel the butterflies, the anxiety in the stomach about what was happening back home in Michigan. And the conference ended. I grabbed all my stuff, headed to the airport, flew to the Atlanta International Airport. And all the while, my anxiety was rising. I was starting to get a little jittery. I didn't need caffeine. I was already jittery. And I remember experiencing in the airport my first panic attack. If you've ever had a panic attack, it is debilitating. While I was walking through the airport, my vision started to get darker and darker. And the anxiety within me was getting overpowering. I felt this dread in my stomach, and I broke out in sweat. And I was like cold and hot at the same time. And my heart was beating so fast, I thought it was going to leap out of my chest. I actually thought I was having a heart attack. That's what I thought was happening to me. I didn't have a vocabulary for a panic attack until I went to see my doctor when I got home. And he said, "Oh yeah, that's what you were experiencing. You were experiencing an extreme panic attack. And you need to learn some relaxation techniques." And that worked for a time and a season, but eventually the anxiety and the depression set back in. And by 2016, I was going to see my general doctor because I couldn't sleep. I was having trouble eating. I was always on edge. I was always nervous about what's around the corner. And I felt embarrassed about it. I didn't want to tell anybody that I was experiencing these episodes of anxiety and crippling depression. And my doctor finally sent me to a psychologist. And I went to the psychologist with my head kind of hanging low. I thought I'd been defeated. I thought, oh man, if people knew that I was going to see a shrink, man, they would leave the church, right? This guy's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or something. And my psychologist helped me realize that I'm not crazy, I'm not alone, and it's not the end of my story. And because of a chemical imbalance, he gave me a prescription that I've been using to this day. It's been about 10 years now that I've been on supervision by a psychologist to deal with my anxiety and my depression. So if you're going, hey, I knew there was something wrong with John, you're right, I'm crazy, just like many of you.